So ether is empty space. If I had all this furniture and everything was out of this room, it would be colder in here. The more empty space, the colder the space. The more matter you put into a room, the more it'll absorb heat and it'll change and it won't be so cold. The first element is space, ether. Nothing happens without empty space. Each element affects each other. They don't stand alone at all. So the reason in Ayurveda they make ether, empty space, and air, which we also call wind, it's basically air in motion. The reason they put those two together and call it one word, vata, change, is because there's only empty space until something happens in it. And then you've got movement, which is air. Whether we open the door in the morning, it's all still at night. We open the door, all of a sudden there's motion in here. Even if a leaf fell off when no one was here, it would change the flow in the air. So ether and air are constantly working together as a unit of elements. So that's why they pair them down into one. And the mantra of vata of change is the leaf never lands in the same place twice. So it's actually constant change. That's why people when you feel too vata, does everybody know these words in a little tiny form or brand new? Okay. Because the word vata, people will be like, around here, someone will be like, oh God, I'm so vata. And really what they're saying is like, I'm feeling so chaotic and scattered. Because, vata, when you feel a lot of vata, you're kind of like out in the ethers and you're like, I don't know, and I can't decide. And, everything's kind of up in the air, And so those are common early stage emotional ways of being able to be like, wait, I might be getting too vata right now. I might need to sit down and ground out. I might need to drink a glass of water, maybe a cup of tea. Something really simple could shift it, but you'll have to be willing to do the opposite. And sometimes it makes it really hard to sit down because you're kind of like, well, I'm kind of freaking out, but I kind of like it, And then we have to kind of think, wait a minute, how do I change this? So you have to let the change happen. But that is kind of what vata represents in its premise of the elements. Then ether feeds the air, motion enkindles fire. If a fire doesn't have some air pockets in it, you can't have a fire. So the way we sustain and create fire is by having air and kindling it. So now we have ether feeding air, air feeding fire. Fire does an interesting thing for water, the next element. Too much fire makes the water boil, so it changes, it morphs the water. So too much fire, or a lot of fire, boil water, great if you want hot water. But, so it's amazing what he can do. Mm-hmm. But if you keep boiling and you don't have any control of the fire, which we know we have to control fire, right? I mean, everyone knows that that's the one element that if you don't control it, not okay. So it'll boil and evaporate, and then you end up with nothing. So if you have too much fire, it's going to dry you out. A lot of people don't think about this because in Pitta, it's not just fire. The word Pitta, of focus, is fire and water. So you always have that balance for fire. Fire is not okay standing alone, especially if it's being enkindled by air on the other side. Without fire, water turns to ice. So you have inertia. Things get stuck in the body without adequate fire because we go cold. So fire's a little variable there. Too much, I always make the joke, like this is, the perfect story of Goldilocks. What I mean? Not too hot, not too cold, just right. And I think about that, and I'm like, actually, that's kind of true when you're eating porridge or having a cup of tea, like too hot or too cold doesn't feel just right. So she really was looking for that, like, I want balance, I don't have a home, And I think about that, So we want warm. You want to enkindle your fire when you feel cold. You want to tame your fire, which is anti-inflammatories. You want to cool the fire. We say this all the time, chill out. You want to tame it when it's too high. Okay? And then water, And earth, so pitta is fire and water, and then kapha is water and earth. I'm going to explain why water's in two places next, if anyone's already thinking about that. So this is water and earth. Now this is flow of water. So this is liquid exchange. This is also the waterworks in the body. And it is going to be about how am I, if I need water to get over to the laguna way over there, I'm going to need some kind of trough to get it there. If I just dump it out on the street, it's just going to go all over the place. So water needs structure to get from one place to another. So it gets structure for innate flow by earth. So water and earth make up kapha. So that's going to be like how you form a lake. The oceans are lakes in the body. The kidneys are the oceans in the body, waterworks. And then we have the lymph and the blood vessels that are all showing us those streams, the rivers that need to get liquid from one place to another. So anything liquid exchange, any fluid that needs to get from one place, I mean, even a glass of water needs a vessel. Or you don't have a glass of water, you don't have water to drink. You know what I mean? So it needs that structure to flow. And kapha, nourish, if you're overnourished, or if you have imbalanced kapha, so if you're imbalanced nourished, like if you're nourishing with contentment food, y'all know what contentment food is? I think we all do, right? If we're nourishing with that, then water and earth make mud in the body. So remember that water and earth make mud. So this is the reason why kapha gets kind of sluggish or stagnant. In Ayurveda, we would say dams in the rivers, or muddy pools, muddy lake, you know, and that's when like the lungs are muddy, you know, meaning they're gunked up, you know, how medical I speak, right? Mm-hmm. I talk total basic language that people are like, yeah, I feel gunked up in my lungs. I'm like, yeah. And then we can start saying, what kind of gunk is that? You know, but I'll be like, man, there's just some sticky stuff in there. Do you feel that? Because we know that. We just need to be asked, or like, otherwise we just feel it and then we're scared. Honestly, that's what happens mostly, is someone's like, oh, I feel like I'm gunked up in there. I keep spitting this stuff up. And then they're like, I hope I'm okay. You know? Or it's not giving you a disease yet, so there's nothing to find if you go to do a lab. You know, so docs are great when you have a disease or an emergency. I mean, they keep people alive every single day. You will want them in your time of need, you know. But early detection is different, you know, being able to be like, God, there's a heaviness. I just can't quite give a deep expansion. Okay? So these are the ideas of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. They're called the Doshas of Ayurveda.